Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Your Cheddar, presented by Ally. We are live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Kristen Scholler, and this is my co-host, JD Durkin.
Good morning. I'm so excited for Your Cheddar.
And we are excited all about the cheddar.
Oh, you were doing it too? I didn't know you were doing it too. It's tough to use the word cheddar when you're not describing the network like in monetary terms and not do this, right? It just invokes it naturally.
I know.
I'm all about it. Cheddar has teamed up with Ally to bring you Your Cheddar, the show that will give you savings and spending strategies as well as career advice from experts that know what they're doing. Very important stuff. This is all about you and your money and your cheddar. Of course, Ally is a leading digital financial services company offering competitive online banking, auto finance, credit card, as well as home loan products and services. They focus on innovation and are committed to doing right by you and your cheddar.
That's right. So, while Ally Financial is the presenting sponsor of this program, the opinions and statements expressed in the following statements are our own. Your Cheddar, presented by Ally, will be on every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock a.m., and I think we should jump right in.
Oh, let's just go ahead and just dive off the deep board.
All right. More than 40 years after Congress created individual retirement accounts, or IRAs, a new study shows they're not doing what they were originally intended to do. So IRAs were supposed to give workers who didn't have employer-sponsored programs like 401ks access to tax-advantaged retirement plans. But according to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, most of the $7.8 trillion allocated to IRAs as of the middle of last year came from rollovers of employer-sponsored 401k accounts. So in addition, most IRA contributors participate in their 401k plan as well, and the studies show that IRAs are barely serving lower income families who would benefit from the tax advantages of the retirement accounts.
I guess this kind of begs the question, Kristen. I read this a lot. Is it necessarily a bad thing to have multiple retirement accounts? I mean, obviously here, if IRAs, the new findings are basically they're not being used the way they were originally designed. I know maybe there's an argument that it's not a bad thing to kind of go through your work career and basically be able to draw retirement funds from different sources.
Or that they aren't being tapped in the way I think that maybe too that they were originally designed or intended for. And so some states are trying to make it a case where employers set up these IRA accounts for employers. Now, of course, the employers or the employees rather themselves have to contribute on their own. That is their responsibility. But some governments are trying to make a push here to get these employers to automatically set up the option, if they don't offer a 401k, to have an IRA set up for their employees.
Yeah, Kristen, you are absolutely right. Those automatic enrollment states, I think that goes back to 2012, include states like Connecticut and California. Illinois is, I know, one of them. The other two are Maryland and Oregon as well.
Yep.
So there you go.
That's right.
All right, moving on. Fannie Mae, the government-sponsored mortgage entity, is making it easier for home buyers with student loans to qualify for a mortgage. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, outstanding student loan debt has now reached $1.4 trillion, trillion with a T. There are over 44 million Americans with student loans. Many of you may be watching right now, each owing more than $37,000 on average. The good news is Fannie Mae has recently changed some of its rules to reflect this growing burden. The new rules loosen some of the guidelines put into place after the 2008 financial crisis, when mortgage lenders used far more conservative formulas when considering home loan applicants with student debt. In addition, borrowers can now exclude student loans that are being paid by someone else, such as a parent, from their application. So here, Kristen, obviously looking to make it a bit easier for people who largely may have been dogged by student loans or continue to be, who have long seen that as a barrier to entry to become first-time home buyers.
Right, so trying to trade in some of these higher student loans, right, with some of the cheaper or less expensive, I guess, loans associated with buying homes. Also, too, trying to improve that debt-to-income ratio, because we know sometimes the rate that you can actually get on a mortgage is reliant upon that debt-to-income ratio. And so several steps to try to improve that for those looking to find a mortgage. And of course, the backdrop against all of this is because we hear many times that millennials are delaying the home buying process, partially because of financial reasons, but these steps seeking to change that a bit, or at least ease up the process.
Yes, absolutely. All right, coming up, how to prioritize and pay off those student loans, same ones basically we were just talking about. But first, here is proof that not all small businesses start out so small. Take a look.
Welcome back to Your Cheddar, presented by Ally. Ally is a leading digital financial services company committed to doing right by you and your cheddar.
Joining us right now is Erin Lowry, the author of Broke Millennial, and Beth Kobliner, author of Get a Financial Life. Ladies, welcome to, oh, did I have that switch? There we go, and they're both up on the screen. Perfect, killing it so far. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's great to have both of you. Okay, so I do understand you both work directly with millennials on their personal finance. So Beth, I'd love to start with you. Talk to us about what you think some of the biggest myths are when it comes to young adults and some of the potential errors in the way that they approach financing.
Right. I think the biggest myth is that they're irresponsible or they're not, saving enough for home down payments, because the truth is that they are actually quite responsible when it comes to something like credit card debt. When I was in college, you'd go on a campus and they'd be handing out credit cards to anyone who could sign their name. Millennials actually have much less credit card debt than previous generations, Gen Xers or baby boomers. And that's because the rules changed in 2009. They had to be 21 to get a credit card. They had to have a parent co-sign, or they needed some income. So I think that's a really positive step. But in terms of their debt loads, that is absolutely the case. And they have to figure out how to pay off those student loan debt loads in a smart way, whether it's doing a repayment plan for federal loans or refinancing a private loan.
Erin, let's toss it to you. Are there certain myths that you can dispel about millennials and their money that are out there right now that you think maybe aren't true?
One, we may take selfies, but I don't think we're quite as narcissistic and focused in on ourselves as people think. My big one, though, is we're still so hung up on this whole boomerang kid part of it. And I think certainly that was true back in 2008 and maybe through about 2010, 2011. But we're growing up as a generation. The older end of this generation is in their mid-30s. So we are kind of turning into that responsible, buying homes, having kids. That whole portion is actually happening now.
The phrase you used was boomerang kid?
Yes.
Would you mind explaining that to any of our viewers who maybe have heard it but can't recall exactly what it is?
So the boomerang kid is the kid who typically, you're saying, goes off to college and then boomerangs and comes back home live back in the nest.
And part of that is because 30% of young people move back home with their parents. It is a record number. And it's, actually smart economics to move back home with your parents if you need to save more money. You have a lot of student debt, for example, and you're trying to save up an emergency cushion, or you're just trying to, pay down high rate debts in particular. Right. So it's smart, but it has been a tough time for that group.
One tip, any other tips, Beth, in terms of how to help manage the money?
If you have a 401k at work, if you've started a job and you're lucky enough to be offered a 401k with matching, absolutely do the maximum that you could match. That's 100% return on your money. Dollar for dollar match is free money. Don't pass it out.
So that's really your piece of advice. Put as much in, and it's worth it in the long run.
First and foremost, it's free money. Also, repayment of student debt is really important. Go to the government website and look at the repayment estimator to figure out how you can change your repayment, that it might be easier on you for now when you have a lower income, and then switch off to higher payments once you start earning more money, or refinancing. There are great sites where you can possibly refinance private loans. That's a fairly new development, and that's an important one for people to know.
Erin, let's go over to you now. What is your best advice in terms of paying off that student loan burden, which is the case for so many people?
So as Beth did mention, refinancing is great in the income-driven repayment plans. But my big number one tip above that is pay more than your minimum due. Even if you are on an income-driven repayment plan, please put $10 extra towards your payment every single month, because $10 can actually shave up to a year off of the time it takes to repay, because it's going directly to your principal balance and not just to your interest.
Right.
Beth, do you agree with that? Is that
actually,
the best way to
don't. I mean,
okay.
I understand your point, but actually, if you look at the numbers, if you have, say, a 401k with matching, that's 100% return on your money, so you'd pay that off more quickly. If you have a private student loan that's charging you maybe 17, 18%, or credit card debt, you pay that off, because that's like earning 17 or 18%. Federal student loans are 3.6 or 7% right now, and that's a low rate, and after a tax break you get with them, it would be like almost earning 1.5%. So I think you have to make your payments every single time, and you have to be timely with your payments, but I wouldn't start paying off more student loan debt if you have other debts or other opportunities like a 401k with match.
Absolutely.
But if you have some extra cash flow and you can put to more than just the 401k.
If you're lucky enough to have a little bit, it's good to be able to do that investment.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, ladies and Erin, let's start with you here. Let's say we have viewers, and on top of the student loan debt and their other financial commitments, suddenly they find themselves madly in love, they're in a serious relationship, they're looking to take that to the next chapter, right? Move it forward. Talk to us about some of the financial hurdles. What are the things that you most recommend as they start those considerations?
I call it getting financially naked, and it's one of my favorite topics.
Great.
My first tip is you have to go in and have it be a no judgment zone. I think a lot of times we start these conversations, and if you're going to get physically naked in front of somebody and they laugh at you, you're never going to do it again. So it's the exact same thing with your money. You have to have that poker face on, no judgment going in. Even if your partner says something that might horrify you, keep it to yourself in the moment so that they're willing to keep opening up. I also say start small. Don't go in and just like, hey, how much debt do you have? Maybe start with something easy like, all right, what are your goals in the future? And then you can kind of create this common language and work your way up instead of starting with something that's going to turn them off immediately.
That would definitely be awkward first date territory. Beth, do you agree with that as well?
I think those are really good tips. I also think that talking about it early and not having joint accounts, joint bank accounts, joint credit card accounts, unless you know you're really serious with this person. I've heard horror stories from people who said, yeah, I thought we were really serious, and then one person can take all the money out of a joint account. Also, if you're a saver and you're dating a spender, you're not going to change him or her. You're going to have to sort of work with it and figure out how you can get along. Talking, I think is really important because you need to know that your money values are the same over a long period of time, or at least you can compromise on them.
All right, ladies,
absolutely.
Erin Lowry and Beth Kobliner, thank you so much for joining us.
you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, up next, there you got the books right there from both of these women. Up next, the prophet Marcus Lemonis tells us what it takes to run a successful small business. But first, here's one industrious young entrepreneur who used side hustles to save up for his dream business.
My name is Justin, I'm 24. I was born and raised in Queens, New York. I graduated from Columbia University with a degree in anthropology in 2015. Yeah, I had a really good job lined up while I was in college. I lost it. It fell out through 2 weeks before graduation, and I kind of went into this frenzy trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I went unemployed for about 3 months before I realized that something needed to change. And that's when I decided to look into the gig economy, and I ended up building furniture and dog sitting through various apps. I'll typically spend about 40 hours a month building furniture. I'll have anywhere from 2 to 3 dogs stay at my apartment over the month. Doing the side hustles has definitely given me a lot of financial freedom. So now I finally have made enough money so I can save up, and I've launched my own business. I've been really passionate about music for years now. I have my own music company and I run events. I manage artists as well. Once it was really easy to kind of work on that while I was in college, and I didn't have to worry about making money. Once I got out of college and I needed to make money, the music wasn't quite doing it as quickly as it needed to. So using these other apps has been really great, and it's allowed me to make money while I'm slowly but surely building my musical empire. I manage various musicians ranging from indie rock groups to DJs to R&B duos and even a rapper. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone when looking at new opportunities. I think we're coming from a very traditional standpoint where you had to work the 9 to 5 and you had to be in the cubicle. But now you can work on the go. You can be a Postmate or whatever. You can be an Uber driver. You can do these things that will give you enough freedom to work on the things that you really want to work on instead of spending years devoting to a craft that you might not be passionate towards.
Welcome back, everyone, to Cheddar, presented by Ally. Ally is a leading digital financial services company committed to doing right by you and your cheddar.
That's right. So our next guest is the host of CNBC's The Profit and has invested more than $40 million.
No, it's 50 now.
50 million. Oh my gosh.
Let's just set the record
All
straight
my cheddar
here.
just melted.
Okay, 50 million. We got to get that right. $50 million of his own money since the show started. So please welcome Marcus Lemonis.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Marcus.
We're so happy to have you, Marcus. You are the guru when it comes to millennials and money and just money and small businesses in general. So what advice would you give to millennials that want to start a small business?
Well, first of all, I always tell anybody that wants to start a small business, especially millennials, that I want you to work somewhere else for someone else before you start your own business. I want you to understand what it feels like to potentially be fired. There are good bosses and bad bosses out there, and I want people to understand what the difference is. And if you work for somebody that's good, you'll pick up their traits. Conversely, if you work for somebody that's bad, you won't pick up some of those traits, hopefully. And when you become your own business owner, you'll know how to engage with your staff a little better.
Marcus, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sometimes young people get a little ahead of themselves. I'm definitely one of those people years ago that loved the idea of being their own boss and being the boss of somebody else. It's a privilege, not a right. And you have to really understand that.
Is there a time frame, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that someone should work at a company before trying to
Or
go
a certain number
on
of
their
I
own?
just want you to get beat up a little bit. And I really want you to feel the anxiety, not working for your mom or dad
Yeah.
or working at a lemonade stand, where you really feel like you understand the inner workings of how company politics work, how to work your way up, how to deal with the pain
Very
in the
important.
fanny employee, just how to deal with all of it.
My father calls that education at the school of hard knocks. That's how he phrases it.
But I think it's even better than that, right? There's a lot of places that people can work, whether they're digital companies or brick and mortar companies or manufacturing companies, just to gain some people skills.
Absolutely. Talk to us a bit. In your experience, what do you see as the biggest pitfalls or mistakes that millennials are making in this space?
They usually have a sense of optimism that isn't really rooted in reality. And what I mean by that is they start the business with $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, and they forget to factor in how much the business is going to lose in the first 12 months. There's a newsflash. Every business doesn't make money, and it definitely doesn't make money in year one. Losing money in year one is not a sign of a failure, it's a sign of a startup. You have to hire people, you have to pay rent. So you should go in anticipating that and not kid yourself that I'm gonna make $1 million in year one.
Millennials more or less entrepreneurial than other generations?
I would say more because they're more willing to take risks. The difference sometimes is that they're not, they don't have the number of kids at home or the responsibilities, so they can afford to take risks. As people get older like me, which I'm not really that old, we have other thoughts in mind, right? You have a mortgage payment, a car payment, 3 kids, whatever it may be, and it's different.
Are there emerging strengths that you're seeing out of young people starting their first companies? Are you seeing young people bring new traits and talents to the surface that we haven't seen with previous
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm seeing more than anything else is millennials have a purpose. They understand what their goals are, and they're not all financially based. It's not I want to start a business to be a millionaire. It's I want to start a business to make a solid living, to provide jobs for other people, to provide opportunity, to allow for creativity. I don't see that necessarily with older folks who are saying, I just need to make a buck and sell my company. Folks today, younger folks, just want to find opportunity and purpose.
Creative ways that people are raising money these days or getting funding to start a business?
You know, there's a lot of different ways. And in the old days, people would ask family and friends. And I want to be clear, that still exists today, no matter what anybody tells you. But there are different ways online where you can raise money. In fact, I'm working with the UPS store right now to do a pitch off where people can get $10,000. They create a 90-second video. They can upload it to the UPS store, pitchoff.com. And I'm going to be selecting, along with UPS, somebody that can win. You have to really comb the internet because there's a lot of people looking to fund millennials. I'm one of them. I give out about $100,000 a year to millennials through colleges, through local organizations. You got to search on the web for them. They're out there.
There is no one mold when it comes to what makes a successful business leader, but talk to us about what you think. Are there key personality traits or things that you tend to see as through lines with people who are successful business leaders or entrepreneurs?
I think there is a mold, actually.
Okay.
I do think there's a mold. And that mold is really cast with a high level of integrity, a high level of ethics, a high level of purpose, and a high level of vulnerability. And what I mean by vulnerability is it's important for the people that you hire or your vendors to know that you don't know everything and for you to admit that you don't know everything. If the three of us work together, we should find each other's strengths and not try to compete. We should really understand, what does he bring, what do you bring, what do I bring to the table? She obviously would bring the most, right?
Clearly.
Oh, Marcus, gosh,
I'd
you're
be
making
trailing
impression
way in the
here.
back.
You would be in
You're
charge,
not
we
kidding,
would be
man.
working for you. But it's accepting that and having humility as the fifth pillar for me that is part of that mold. I think too often we meet a lot of people in this big giant room. Maybe a little dab of humility would maybe help them out a little bit.
Certainly. Always the case. Marcus Lemonis, The Profit premieres on June 6th on CNBC. Thank you so much for joining
Absolutely. I
us.
like your setup here.
Hey,
We're so
you're welcome
happy to
back
have you.
anytime,
Legit?
Marcus. Come back and see
I
us
will.
again soon.
I will.
Up next, folks, if you've decided you're ready to buy a home, we'll tell you how to calculate the monthly payment you can actually afford. You don't want to miss that. That's coming right up. But first, how to become your own financial planner. Take a look.
I'm Kana Danielle, CEO and investment coach at InvestDiva.com, and today we're going to talk about the importance of financial planning. First and foremost, you want to create your goals, set up your short-term, medium, and long-term goals. A lot of spending is emotionally driven. Once you understand why you spend, then you can go ahead and manage your spending and basically bring it down to your budgeting plan to achieve your financial goals. Let's talk about 4 basic steps that you yourself can take in order to become a better financial planner for yourself. You want to know how you're doing financially at the moment. You want to know your net worth. That is your assets, the combination of all of your assets, your car, your home, your cash, minus all of your debt. The second thing you want to do is actually creating that savings plan, creating that investment plan. And the third thing is that you want to keep up and keep on track with your budgeting, with your goals, and you want to keep on updating it. You want to make sure you're not being underpaid. And if you are, you want to negotiate. You want to go and ask for that raise. Or you want to get on another job or an extra job or an extra gig or something else. At the end of the day, basically, financial planning is understanding how you're doing right now and having a roadmap into how you can make your life better in the future.
Welcome back to Your Cheddar, everyone, presented by Ally. Ally is a leading digital financial services company committed to doing right by you and your cheddar.
Cheddar, that's right. So once you know you're ready to buy a home, what are the next steps? It's such a big question for so many people, and so here are some basic criteria. Number 1, check your credit score and look at your cash flow. The better your credit score, the better your interest rate on a home loan.
Absolutely, and it's easier than ever to check your credit score, so definitely do that. Number 2, a good rule of thumb is to make sure the total monthly payment does not consume more than 30% of your overall take-home pay. That's something you guys talked about in last week's show.
Definitely. And number 3, have cash for a down payment, of course. Very, very important. How much is the right amount, though, to put down? We'll talk about that.
Your research, yes we will. Number 4, plan for additional expenses. Always plan. Consider property taxes, insurance, maintenance fees. All these things can significantly add up to your monthly payment.
And then also number 5, you want to get a pre-qualified. You want to get pre-qualified. To get pre-qualified for getting a mortgage, you want to get a pre-qualification letter from a mortgage lender before the house hunting process begins. So 5 steps, right?
That was 5, yeah?
That was 5 if you're on your way to getting a home. Once you are pre-qualified for a mortgage, you're going to want to know how much monthly payments will be. So now we're going to check out Ally's mortgage payment calculator. I have it up on my screen here. And of course, you can input the details as you see fit. And so for the home price, we put in $400,000. Good credit. Of course, you can choose excellent credit, but we're going to go with good. So a score between 700 and 719. Want to live in California, maybe next to a Silicon Valley or in that area. Property type is a single-family home. You see it on the screen there, and then the property use is for a primary residence. So all I have to do then is scroll down. We'll click calculate, and then we will get the breakdown of exactly what we need.
Like
so with
magic.
Right, with this home price, this home is going to cost you $1,900 a month. You can see that in the green wheel over here on the left side of the screen. For a 20% down payment, you're going to have to put down $80,800 And then, of course, below that, you can use the terms. There's a 30-year term. There's a 15-year term as well. And, of course, remember, when you see rates can change on a daily basis. So let's go over and dig a little deeper. So if we click on your details, of course, here we can see what we inputted, the home price, a good credit score, the property in California, the property use is for primary residence, and the type is single-family home. And what does this assume? We get to the assumptions. So the estimated property taxes are going to be about 74 basis points a year, so just shy of 1% a year. Homeowners insurance, what's that going to cost you a year? $996. So there's a little bit more of a breakdown. Then we'll get the loan breakdown. The loan amount is $323,200. The down payment is $80,800. Of course, there you have your interest rates, your APR as well. Total monthly payments when it's all said and done, $360. And then the monthly payments breakdown, the mortgage payment is going to be $1,567. Property tax is $250, and the homeowner's insurance $83.
Absolutely, and this mortgage payment calculator is available over at ally.com. And I spent time out this morning, Kristen. What's interesting, you can go through. You know, if you're there to more experiment and get a gauge of the overall markets and the way that these financial metrics basically impact these numbers, whether you change your term rate or not, I was going through and I was comparing. Let's do California. Let's see my home state of New Jersey. Let's try New York. Then I threw in a random state like Oklahoma, and you can see the way that all of these rates and metrics appropriately adjust. And I encourage you to. We chose. We didn't do the excellent. What we do, the good range for credit score. But it's worth it to go through and see, okay, if you do have significantly improved credit, what that means on the back end for all this. So it's a tremendous tool. Kristen just did a great job walking it through. What was the home price? About $404,000?
$404,000.
Yep.
All right. So this will give you an idea to help you get started, of course, but everyone's personal situation is different, we know, so which is why there is an exclusive Ally Home team that will help you each step of the way. So important. They will take the time to understand your goals and guide you to the right product to help meet your unique home financing needs. And you can pick up the phone, call them for guidance on the next steps for your home buying decision. That's going to do it for today's Your Cheddar presented by Ally. We'll be back next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And stay with us now for what you hear behind us, which is the opening bell.